Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We are joined by Jonathan Dunkley. He is a Democratic candidate for the 2nd Congressional District. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well,
From our
Roby.
debate a couple of weeks ago. That was a good time. I appreciate you doing that.
Glad to.
In deference to everyone else, we have had one-on-ones or two-on-ones with everybody else that is running for the 2nd Congressional District race in the Democratic primary, and you and I have not had a chance to do a little one-on-one, so
Yes.
I'm doing fair play here for everybody involved. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where were you born and raised, and how did you find your way to Little Rock, Arkansas?
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for the debate, Roby, and thanks today for sitting down and speaking with us. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, right outside Disney World in a town called Kissimmee. And after high school, I went to Louisiana State University. I met my wife, and I wanted to transfer. LSU was a large institution. I enjoyed football games more than class because I couldn't really talk to my professors. You know, I remember a professor saying to me, "I'm a researcher." And I thought, well, I have questions about my assignment. And he had no interest in engaging me in that way. And so I called my mom. Political science.
Okay.
And
okay.
I called my mom, right, as you do when you're in trouble in school. And I said, "Mom, you know, I went to talk to my professor and this isn't going well. It's too large of a school. He said he has several hundred students, doesn't have the time to talk to me in that way." And she said, "Oh, I'm glad you called me. There's a school in Little Rock, Arkansas." And I thought, why Arkansas? I said, at the time, this is early 2000s, Roby, so I knew of President Bill Clinton, and unfortunately, I knew of banging in Little Rock, right? And so that gave me a little pause about Little Rock. But I looked online because we had Google and everything, and I started seeing this is a rich community with great history and their tradition here. I learned about President Clinton as governor running past Philander Smith College. I learned about Philander Smith, his wife challenging him to open a school for freed slaves. I was instantly drawn in and moved here with my wife in 2003. We've been here ever since, raising our daughters right here in Little Rock.
And tell everybody what you do here. You work at the Clinton School of Public Service. What do you do?
Currently, I am the Director of Operations at the Clinton School of Public Service. A multitude of different tasks as Dean Rutherford and the students see fit, because students, they have their own needs as well, and I like to interact with them in a different way. I really work on the business administration side of things at the school, but also it's a great role that allows me to interact with the students.
Yeah, all right, so wife and 2 kids.
Yes, sir.
9 and 4, is
9
that right?
and 4,
okay,
that's right,
so
Roby.
2 little girls, they're adorable. Your wife's very precious as well. They were here for the debate. What are they into? What are your kids into right now?
So, unicorns.
Oh.
Unicorns, and my 9-year-old is into slime, which I can't stand because it's dirtying up my house.
Lovely.
But she loves slime and unicorns right now.
And here you are in politics. So,
and
politics. Speaking of slime, so I'm just kidding. Let's keep it high-minded
here. It can be
here.
slimy, right? Yeah. But hopefully we take it to a higher place.
Good. All right. So let's focus on political point of view here and everything. You said in the debate a couple of weeks ago that you were the most progressive Democrat in this race for Congress. What makes you most progressive? Tell me where you feel like you are further progressive than any of the other candidates in the race.
Absolutely. So State Representative Clark Tucker, he's what I would call an establishment candidate. Fantastic guy, great in politics here locally, but I think he's middle of the road. During the debate, he mentioned that healthcare was something that most Americans liked from their employer. I think that kind of shows he's a bit out of touch with the reality of most folks. Not that they dislike it, but it's usually not given to them as a preference. This is the option we have.
I like my health insurance that I have through my employer,
Absolutely.
So I'm all right with that.
And I like mine. Mine isn't bad either, but I also recognize I work for the state of Arkansas and I have a tremendous benefits package. But I'm speaking to small business owners who are saying, here's the policy I have to provide my employees because this is what I can afford. It's not the best. And so
you think your position on health care makes you more progressive than Paul Spencer, Gwen Combs, Clark Tucker?
I do, because I think unequivocally we're speaking about Medicare for all. And I think Paul and Gwen are both talking about a single payer type system. Clark obviously talked about a system where they continue to purchase their private insurance option but had an option to purchase Medicare. So that's where I differentiate with again, Representative Tucker. I agree that Gwen and Paul are both probably right there with me on health care. Where I differentiate myself with Mr. Spencer is his stance on abortion and a woman's right to choose. And I know it's based in his religious belief system, and I wholeheartedly respect that. But it does make me question, can you also affix the label of truly progressive, and you have issues with that topic?
Are you unequivocally pro-choice?
Unequivocally.
I mean, any circumstances?
Any circumstances. I believe wholeheartedly after my time working at the Department of Human Services and overseeing foster care programs that if we educate folks and we can get them out of these dire situations, that we will see fewer folks seeking abortions. I haven't run into anyone who wants an abortion, right? That's not their goal in life.
Right.
It's life circumstances that they're like, I can't afford a child, or I had some trauma that took place and now I want to get rid of this pregnancy. So it's usually an unfortunate scenario.
What about women having just control of their bodies? Is that a reason as well?
That's probably my number one. That ultimately, if we talk about healthcare for all and women having complete control over their decision-making process, that's something that should be discussed with their healthcare provider, their spouse if they have one, their mate, and make those decisions privately. And I think politicians should kind of steer clear of getting in the way of those.
I hit you a little blind with this one because we got a request for some questions that we didn't have time to in the debate.
Yes.
About the environment. And I think that is an area where a progressive person could distinguish themselves even further in terms of their environmental stewardship, where their position is on some environmental issues. Can you name something in the district here that you feel deserves attention in terms of environmental causes and where you maybe stake a progressive claim on that?
Absolutely. So outside of Mayflower, we had the oil spill, right? And so if we can look for renewable sources of energy that can also provide jobs right here in this district, I think we're ahead of the curve. And I see a tremendous opportunity with solar. I was doing some research the other day with my team, and we were looking at how innovative the technology has become just in the past few years. On Route 66, they're putting solar panels in the sidewalks in an effort to generate electricity to power the LED lights at night, right? They're also looking at technology where we could embed that into the roadways and get rid of sleet and ice. So there's technology that would, in the long run, save us money. And we know we get a little bit of sleet and ice right here in the district, we can shut down for a day or two.
April, you know, I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but yes. We'll have tornadoes in December, but we'll have that in. All right, so one of the challenges that you may have if you win this nomination and you win the seat, the Democrats take back the House of Representatives, Speaker Paul Ryan has announced he is not running for re-election. So there's going to be a change in leadership on the GOP side. Obviously, the Democrats win, there'll be a change in House leadership on the Democratic side too. Do you support Speaker Pelosi if the Democrats take it back, or do you want to see some different leadership in the House Democrats?
You know, I've been asked about Speaker Pelosi, and I have to say she's become a polarizing figure for some reason in the media, but if we look at her record and some of the historic legislation that's been passed under her tenure, she's to be commended. She's one of the rock stars in my mind of the party, and I question why she's been so polarizing. Maybe it's some of her own antics, but I haven't met her yet. I'm looking forward to meeting her and getting a sense of what she's about. But I think we have such tremendous issues to address. Whoever the Democratic leadership is, I want to give them a fair opportunity as a new member of Congress, working with them and getting a sense of who they are outside of what I've learned in the media. I think everyone deserves that fair shot. And if she were to be elected to leadership, I'd fall in line and follow her. I wouldn't be behind the scenes trying to lobby for someone else.
I think some of the polarization of her as a figure is the fact that she's female. She represents a liberal district in San Francisco, and she's pushed some very progressive causes.
I appreciate you mentioning those things.
For a conservative Arkansas voter, that is, you know, she's a prime target, and I think that's why you see the Republicans kind of tie Democrats to her every chance that they get.
Correct.
So, lastly, there was, just in terms of current events, President Trump last weekend launched strikes in conjunction with France and in conjunction with Great Britain on Syrian chemical weapons outposts there. You support those Syrian strikes? Do you think Congress needs more oversight over that?
I would have loved to see an authorization for the use of military force. I think it's appropriate. This conflict in Syria by this current regime is atrocious, and it's been going on for quite some time. I think the previous administration was dealing with what's the most appropriate response to the gassing of his own people and the destruction of this country. But again, let's have this conversation with the American public. Let's bring Congress into it. I don't think sending out tweets and the approach is what I really have problems with. But again, I'm against what's happening over there to the people in Syria and the al-Assad regime in particular. But I think the current president needs to seek some authorization if he wants to continue strikes in Syria.
All right, last question for you. You've been making the rounds throughout the district. I think you were in Conway earlier this week.
Yes.
What's the number one issue people are talking about when you're going to some of these lunch counters and knocking on doors and some of these community events?
money in their pocket at the end of the day. And if we can address healthcare, if we can address the cost of education, those are the issues that I hear people talking about every day, is just basic needs, paying for things and taking care of their children, paying for college, while still paying for their own student loans. That's been a common thing that I've spoken with a lot of folks about, is that kind of issue that arises when this is how much I make, I'm paying for my student loans, and now I've got a child of my own that's growing up, and I have to start trying to save for them. So those are the challenges that most of the time when I'm speaking to people, these everyday issues, the support for this campaign and the way we're talking about these issues, I think has been just, it's humbling to me. You never know the response you're gonna get, and you can hear so much of the negativity about politics, but the positive energy around having the opportunity to elect someone that the people feel represents their values. Hear a lot of disdain for the current incumbent. A lot of folks all over the district don't feel their interests are being represented, and that's been a theme that's resonated over and over throughout my time campaigning.
Jonathan Dunkley, he's a Democrat running for the 2nd District Congressional seat. He's got 3 other challengers: Gwen Combs, Paul Spencer, Clark Tucker, for the right to face Republican GOP incumbent French Hill and Libertarian Joe Swafford in the general election. Best of luck to you.
Thanks, Roby.
Good to have
appreciate
you in.
Great to be here, sir.
All right, we'll keep an eye on you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.